Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today, and thank you for being here. My name is Rosie, and I work with the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. This is Josh.
Hello.
And he also works for the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. So starting out, I just want to make sure that everyone has these three things. So first, print out of your slides. Second, should say business model canvas. And the third one is plan to succeed. If you don't have any of these, Jennifer has plenty of copies. All right. Okay, so slides, business model canvas, and plan to succeed. All right, awesome. Great, so today we're going to talk about farm business planning. And just a little bit of background on the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. We are a nonprofit organization based here in Rhode Island, and our purpose is building a more just and resilient food system for all Rhode Islanders. We do that in a lot of different ways, including policy advocacy. And so I'm going to jump ahead. Sure. So we also say we work toward an equitable, accessible, economically vibrant, environmentally sustainable food system by addressing the most pressing food system needs. And so these needs are farms and fishery production, manufacturing, distribution, retail, consumption, and food waste throughout all of Rhode Island. So what are we going to talk about today? First, some framing, some background that's going to set the stage. And then we're going to go through this first tool, the business model canvas. And then we're going to go through the second tool, this business planning sheet. And so these are here for you to take notes on as works for you. We can also give you more copies and give you digital versions of these as well. So, framing. All right. First off, when you're planning your business, doing any sort of business planning, do your homework, know your stuff. What is it that you want to do? What is the background? Who do you need to talk to? What information do you need, do you not have, right? Not everyone knows everything about everything. And also, getting focus. So this is an acronym in English that stands for financial, operational, customer, and us. So who is your team? So this is asking the questions, what are the financial things that you need to know and plan for? What are the operations of your business that you're planning for? Who are your customers and who are you working with? And so we've given you two tools today. There are so many more tools that exist for you to use, but any tool is only as good as it is useful. So find what works for you. Make the tools work for you, ask plenty of questions. And then what doesn't work, it's okay. You can forget it or adapt it to what works for you, right? So for example, if this has, a lot of objectives, start and make sure that you have the good objectives instead of just having as many objectives as possible. And then lastly, there's jargon in the business world. There's jargon in a lot of different industries. So we might say some things tonight, and if you've got any questions, please raise your hand or just speak up, and we're happy to talk through it. We can translate it, but also if you too much jargon, ditch it, it's okay. It's all about making sure that things work for you, and we can always help walk you through things. So, starting out, the business model canvas. This first one. So, we have this broken up into 9 different areas. And so we're going to walk through each one of these boxes, and there's going to be some questions that go along with it, and different ways of putting these different boxes together and understanding how all of these fit together when you're planning your business. So, what is a business model? A business model is the way a business creates, delivers, and captures value. What does that mean? Without the jargon. So a business model helps you plan for your production, your operations. So for example, in your farm business, what you're growing, what you've got coming out of the ground, or what you're fishing, And then you've got your sales and marketing. So how are you selling this to people? How are you delivering value to your customers? And then financials, how are you capturing that value? When you've sold something, how are you tracking the money that's coming in and managing all of that? And then lastly, focus. Financial, operational, customer, and us, team. All right, so this has got 9 different areas on it. And on your sheets, it's also going to have a couple of questions. Starting top left, you've got your key partners, people that you're working with, that you're going to need to work with. And then you've got your key activities, what needs to be done. You've got your key resources. What are the things that you need? The value proposition. What differentiates what's important about the product that your business is selling or the service that you're providing? And then you've got your customer relationships. Who are your customers? How are you meeting them? And then you've got your channels. Again, how are you meeting your customers? How are you continuing to make sales or to interact with people who you could potentially make sales to? And then your customer segments. And then finally, at the bottom, you've got your cost structure and your revenue streams. Sort of one way to think of this is revenue streams, money coming into you. Cost structure, money going out. Your loans, your equipment costs, everything that it takes to run the business. If you see here, we still have those same 9 boxes behind us, but it's now split into 3 different sections. So you've got these first couple of boxes, you've got your production, your operations. So that's going to be your key partners, that's going to be your key resources, and your key activities, and part of your value proposition. And then on this side, you've got your sales and marketing. So that's going to be your customer relationships, your channels, and your customer segments, as well as part of your value proposition. And then on the bottom here, we've got financials, and that's going to be your cost structure and your revenue streams. We're going to jump into the sales and marketing side. So it's going to be, right now we're going to talk about our customer relationships, our channels, and our customer segments. We're jumping into these 3 right here. So here's some questions that go along with these different categories. All right, so customer segments. The questions you're asking, who are you selling to? Who wants what you're providing? And then a segment is a different group based on the different products, services, or channels. So a segment can look different if you've got different products that your business is offering or different services that your business is offering. And then also under here are your profits. You might have different profits depending on who the customers are for what you're selling or the service that you're providing. Do you have any examples that you want to share?
So I think the way to think about your customer segments is who specifically is it that you're going to be selling to? Sometimes the thing you think you're going to sell to everyone, right? I'm going to sell to everyone. Everyone's going to want. But who specifically, right? What is it that, who are they? Parts of particular communities, understanding their ages, if it's more men or women, if it's more whatever it might be. Understanding where they gather, what groups are they a part of? That's important to know, right? Because that's how you're going to reach them and connect with them. Examples can be that you are, thinking about selling your products that you're growing, and the way that you're going to sell them is through, we talked about this last night a little bit, a house party, right? And you're going to get people together And so maybe it's going to be more women. Do people know about Amway or Pampered Chef or things like that, where they're house parties and they sell products in that sort of way? That's an example of a certain type of a customer segment that you're reaching through a certain type of a channel, right? You're reaching them through house parties, and maybe it's more women because that's who you're targeting.
And so that goes to channels, how and where you sell. So an example of where you'd sell, a house party, someone that you already know. Or do you want to sell at the farmer's market? Or do you want to have a CSA, community supported agriculture, a share that people buy into? Or do you want to go knock on people's doors? Not everyone loves doing that, but some people really enjoy selling that way. And all of that impacts your customer relationships. So how are you interacting with customers, but also how are you acting with potential customers? How are you finding the people, and how are you reaching out to them? What do you want their relationship with you to be like? We think about Coca-Cola, for example, right? Everyone knows who Coca-Cola is because they're everywhere. So they've taken an approach of having relationships with, as many people as possible, versus are you looking for a specific group of people?
Let's stop and talk about the channels for a minute. So Rosie mentioned a couple different channels, examples of channels where you reach your customers. Farmers markets, craft markets, other sorts of markets. That's one example, right? The house party sort of situation that we talked about, that's another example, right? What other types of, do you have questions about channels? Schools and churches, right? Could be other places where you reach your customers. If that's where my customers gather, that's where I want to be, right? So that's what you want to think about when you're thinking about your business and what your channels should be. Where do my customers gather? I should be there, right? If I go over here, if my customers are older folks and I'm on, folks on TikTok as a social media thing, right? It's a thing that kids use a lot, right? My kids look at it a bit. That's not the right match, right? If you're going for an older customer base and you're marketing, you're using that channel that goes in that way, you're missing it, right? If you're going for more women, but and house parties might be the way that you're doing it, right? Versus other sorts of channels. Farmers markets, there are certain types of people who are going to come to certain types of markets. Do they value what you offer, right? Do they match with what you offer? Is the audience who you're looking for?
I do want to ask if anyone has any business ideas and want to think out loud with a group about these questions about who are your customers, how you would find them, how you would reach people. Anyone? All right. We'll come back to that. All right.
You can ask questions as you have them.
And so then we have here the value propositions. So this is what makes, why do people want your product or your service? Why should people buy your potatoes versus someone else's potatoes? And so we've got some questions to ask here. Why you? Why you as the person producing those, whatever you're growing, your potatoes, your carrots, any of that. And then also, is it relevant? So are you growing things that you think that your customers are going to want or not? Or is what you're growing different? Are you trying to sell something different than what's already available? Everyone wants, I'm trying to think of like squash. Everyone grows butternut squash, but you grow a kabocha squash. Maybe that's a little bit different. And then what are the specific benefits of what you're offering, of your service, of your food? Is it something that's healthier? Is it something that's grown organically? Is it something that is benefiting your customers in some way? And so part of all of this is how are you communicating these value propositions to the people who have already bought what you're selling or might be interested in what you're selling or are going to tell their friends about what you're selling. But it's making that connection between the value and the customers.
Value proposition is one of those things that sounds, it's a jargon type of a business word or business phrase. But Rosia said it perfectly, right? Why you instead of, folks have other choices. They're going to buy something similar somewhere else, right? Your competitor. They're going to buy it at the market. They're going to buy it at, wherever they're going to buy it. Why you? And you have to have language and experiences that give people that reason.
All right. So now we've got some examples of all of these. I've shared some, but we can walk through. So when we talk about customer segments, here's some relevant customer segments. So we brought up a farmer's market. And then also CSAs, community supported agriculture. Is everyone familiar with CSAs here? Okay.
Do people know what a CSA is?
All right. A CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and it's where a farmer has set up so that customers can pay them either ahead of time or monthly for a share of what's grown on the farm. So the customer is not deciding what's in their CSA usually, but it's a way for the farmer to get money up front, capital up front, to invest as they are growing, and then that share is given to the customer and they know that they've already paid for it. It differs from like a farmer's market where when you go to the farmer's market, you have to pick from what's available and someone might come before you and take the thing, buy the thing that you want. So this is a different way of selling. And then we also have retail markets, so grocery stores, corner stores, yep. And then you've got restaurants, so selling to a chef, selling to someone who's looking for maybe local lettuce when local lettuce is available. And then institutional, so maybe there's the chefs, the cooks at a hospital are going to incorporate your local food into hospital meals, for example, or schools is another great example of institutional.
Southside Community Land Trust might buy product from you and use it in different ways or help you reach markets. Farm Fresh Rhode Island might do the same. Those are examples of those types of connections.
Yeah, and an example of Farm Fresh or that institutional is online. If anyone's familiar with Market Mobile that they have, so that's online sales of produce. So it's a way of using an online marketplace instead of maybe having a storefront or going and selling it to kitchens. People are purchasing online from you. So that's some examples of customer segments. Of course, of all of these, there's many more examples, but these are very specific to farm businesses and food businesses. So next, your channels. So we kind of got into this, but we've got retail, so those corner stores, grocery stores, and then you've got wholesale. So instead of selling a bunch of carrots, you're selling a box of carrots to someone. And so the way that it's packaged might be different, but it's a different opportunity. And then e-commerce, so that online again, purchasing, selling that way. And then you've got customer relationships. So one customer relationship could be in person, right? You're at the farmer's market, you get to know your customers when they visit you each week, or you are when they come, you're asking for email addresses and then you're reaching out to people online, or you're using your phone to text and call, or you have people working for you who are the ones then going out, dedicated staff who are going out and trying to sell your product for you, or working for you at the farmer's market. But those are different ways of reaching out to your different customers or potential future customers too. And that's also a way to stay in contact with people who've already bought from you as well too, right? It's, you can get someone to come once, but how can you keep them coming back? Part of that is the relationship. Or part of that is also the value proposition. So you grow the best lettuce in the state of Rhode Island. If you've got that product quality, that could be something that keeps people coming back. Or the service quality. You have the best lettuce and you're the friendliest person in Rhode Island. So people really enjoy interacting with you. That's part of the value of your business that you're bringing. Or price. You have the best lettuce, you're the friendliest person, and it's the cheapest lettuce in Rhode Island. And so that's another value proposition. Or selection. You grow all kinds of different vegetables and people want to come and support your business because they know that they can come to you and get everything that they need in one place. And then you also have your brand or your experience. So you can have the product quality that speaks for itself, but what if you have something that has really cool packaging, right? Like we all recognize that Dunkin' Donuts cup. That is part of the brand experience. We know what it looks like, we're familiar with it, and so people come back because it's something that they're familiar with the experience of that product.
So if you think about a business that it's not exclusively in the food space, but usually you compete on one of these different things mainly, right? Your main sort of thing that you're competing and better than the alternative on, right? So what does Walmart compete on? Which of these things do you think that Walmart is price and selection? Yeah, if you'd say two. Price is the one, selection is the two, right? So now I'm going to ask you another question. If you're selling what Walmart's selling as an individual or a small business, are you going to compete with Walmart on price? You can't. There's no way that you can, right? And you wouldn't even want to try because that's the wrong fit. If you're going to a customer segment who the main thing that they care about is that you're as cheap as Walmart, you're hitting the wrong customer segment, right? The customer segment who you want to hit cares about these other things, cares about the quality, maybe the selection in terms of it's different than anything else, it's culturally relevant, right? Then you're competing in the right place when you're going to the farmer's market that has those people who want that, right? When you're going to the CSA, they're coming to you, right? You're selling them on that, right? So that's that when you're going to the chef who gets that what you're growing is the best, right? And it's specifically what they want, right? So that's the thing to think about, how the value proposition lines up with the customer segment. You want that to line up. You want what you are selling and your pitch of why people want it to line up with who you're pitching to. If I'm pitching to someone who only cares about price and they're going to Walmart as the competitor, that's not my customer segment. That's not the audience I should be. I could spend lots of time and money trying to market to that customer segment and I missed it, right?
I'm going to move over to the other side at the top. So we're going to talk about the key partners, the key activities, and the key resources. And we're going to talk about these, again, as they relate to the value proposition, so that column in the middle. I'm going to start out key partners. So you're asking questions like, who can help you add more value? Who can help you create this better product or reach more people or complement your offerings, right? Who can you work with? Because a lot of the time you're not doing something completely by yourself. You need to work with other people. And so examples of that can be, I don't know, what are good examples? Yeah.
So we've talked about Southside Community Land Trust. We've talked about Farm Fresh. Those are partners that can help you get your product to market, can help you potentially process it. That's one example of a partner, right? Sometimes, one example we brought up last night was there's a farm called Pat's Pastured, and they raise livestock, cows, chickens, and that's what they do. And they butcher, they get it butchered, and they sell it to people in a variety of different ways. That's all they do. They partnered during COVID, in particular, they started partnering with other local businesses that do oysters and dairy products, right? Because they don't do those things. So they do meat, and these other folks do other things, right? So they bundled their stuff together and said, hey, buy it together, right? If you want this, you might want this too, right? That's a partnership. That's what's actually called a channel partner, because it's about reaching a channel. So that's an example of a partner, a key partner that you might work with. How is it a win-win? How does it benefit you and your partner? Sometimes a partner is a partner who has a location to sell, right? That's sometimes a partner. The farmer's market could be a partner, or you get together with others and have a pop-up market. Those are examples of partnerships.
So then, moving on to key activities. So this is what do you need to do to create value for your customers consistently. So not just at one farmer's market, but at every single farmer's market, or every single time that you are selling something, what do you need to do in order to have this product that people want, and to do that the same way every single time. And so these are actions that you have to take, right? So is that your packaging? Is that making sure that everything's washed off really well so it's clean when it's sitting on a table? Or is it that you cut things up and that you do carrot sticks, say, but are your carrot sticks the same length every single time? So it's the things that you need to do to deliver.
Other key activities that often you don't think about. You think about you have a food product, it's all about the product itself. But there are key activities in your business that aren't always related to that. The marketing piece, the sales and marketing piece, is a key activity for you. If you don't have a customer, it doesn't matter if you have a product. You're not going to make any money if you don't have a customer who wants to buy that product. So the activities that you do to find those markets are key activities for your business. Same thing in terms of if managing the money that goes in and that comes in and goes out, right? If you don't spend some time managing the money that's coming in and going out, you can have a great product, you can have a customer. But if you don't do those key activities, you can lose money, right? So those are other key activities that should be part of your business planning.
And then that gets to key resources. So what are the assets that you need to deliver this value to customers consistently? So what are assets? That could be the plot of land that you're growing on. That could be the tools that you use. That could be how you're packaging things. That could be the car that you need to use to transport things to your customers. That could be using your cell phone to put those Facebook ads online. It's anything that is going into your business to deliver. And sometimes those assets you share with key partners. So for example, if you need a really big piece of equipment, can you share that with someone? Can you rent that from someone? It's not that you need to buy everything up front and own it yourself. There are a lot of different ways around how you can access assets. And assets sometimes too, it can be that you get a loan to purchase something, and so you're paying for those assets over time. For example, a car loan, a truck loan, that's an example. And especially like if you have a partner who's not able to lend you a truck, okay, I need to buy my own truck. How do you make that happen?
So these are the sort of key things that go into the production and operations side of your business, and it all lines back up with the other side that we talked about, sales and marketing, customer segments, channels, relationships. It lines up in the value proposition, right? Because the question here is, how does what you do in your operational side line up with what your customers actually want? You can do a lot of things, you can spend a lot of time and money doing a lot of things, but if it doesn't deliver value to your customer, if you're not reaching the right customer, you can spin your wheels. You can lose money doing that a lot, lose time, right? So you want to always be asking that question of, who is my customer? What do they want? And how do I line up what it is that I do to give them what they want consistently?
Here are some examples. So ideas of key partners, your vendors, your suppliers. Who are you getting the inputs that you need from? And how are you building up those relationships? How are you finding what you need? The vendors and suppliers are the people who are going to help you with that, even though they're not purchasing something from you. And then also partners, your farmers markets, cooperatives, so working together with other farmers, say, and so, like, for example, this can happen where, like, if you really like growing a couple of crops, someone else really likes growing a couple of other crops, you guys can work together, and that might help you reach a different customer segment, or it might help you go through a different channel in order to sell more for each of you. And then a land trust, so that can also be where you're growing. So if you're looking for land, a land trust could be a partner to help you find a place to grow, etc. There's lots of examples. And then your key activities. So in your operations, you're going to have the production that whatever it is that you're doing, the growing, for example, but then also marketing. We've talked about, how are you telling people that you have this to sell to them? And then financial, how are you managing money coming in, money going out? Are you selling your product at a high enough price, at a low enough price? And is it enough to cover what you might need to pay to your vendors and suppliers? And then key resources, land, labor, capital. So we've kind of talked about how key partners can help you with that. Land trusts could help you find land. Labor, it could be that I know, like, a lot of folks have become farmers because their parents were farmers, but now their kids help them. Labor, that's right there. Is your family helping you? And then capital, so the money that you need to invest in order to make your business work. What do you need to get off the ground? What do you need to keep it going?
Oh, it's the same list under value proposition as it was before. Okay. So product quality, service quality, price, selection, brand experience. Those are still the things that you need to think about your value proposition. If you say, you want to have a pitch ready, you want to have words ready for the why you instead of the alternative, right? So I have a lot of different choices, why you? And you want to have a pitch that says, because this is what I offer, right? That's different, that's relevant, it solves your problem or gives you the benefit that you're looking for. I can tell you, why it's different than anything else that's out there. My customer are people who have very discerning taste. They love the best. They love the best of this particular type of food that you can't get anywhere else in Providence because it's a very specific food to my culture, right? So my customer has that discerning taste, and I have the product that has the quality for that discerning taste. I have the best, right? And you don't have to take my word for it. Here's all these other people who love what I do. It's the best, right? That's part of your value proposition, why someone should pay attention. And then you say, you should pay a little bit more for that because it's special, right? That's your value proposition. There are different ways that you can get money for your business, right? You could get it as a grant where you don't have to pay it back at all. It's a grant or a gift. If it's a loan, then yeah, there's going to be interest. And there's a market for loans, right? And so sometimes you have to see what interest rates different lenders are offering, right? And compare them and see what they're offering to you. Because they might be offering something that seems good up front, but it actually is very expensive for you, right? Sometimes you can be more creative about the ways that you get funding for your business. We talked about the CSA, Community Supported Agriculture. That's a way of getting money into your business first before you have the product to sell, right? They give you the money up front because they say, I like what you're doing, I want what you're growing. You use that money to do the production side of things, to set up your growing situation, right? And then they know that part of the deal is I'm going to give you that money, you're going to go do the production, and then you're going to come back to me and say, this is what I grew, here's your share of it. Here's your box every week, every month, right? That's a way of getting money in to help you run your business, right? It's the same type of a thing as what a loan is. A loan is just money now so that I can do the stuff that costs money now, and then I should be paying that money back based on what I did in my production that generates money, right? So you have to be careful about loans because they can look good up front, but they can get you stuck in a situation where interest rates are very high, or they have different terms, things I want to say. So like sometimes loans require collateral, right? Collateral means something that you own that has value, that the person giving you the loan says, if you don't pay me back, I can take that thing. I can take your car if you don't pay this loan back. I could take that piece of equipment. So you have to be very careful about loans and thinking about what you're getting yourself into.
When you're looking for a loan from anyone, from a person, from a bank, anywhere, it's okay to ask a lot of questions to make sure that you know how long you're going to be paying it off for, what is the interest, is there collateral. Ask lots of questions because you're paying for something. That's a business in and of itself. So it's okay to ask a lot of questions.
And they're selling you their value proposition, right? It's a different business. Banks don't usually lend money to businesses that don't have a track record, that don't have a history. It's harder to get a loan for a business that doesn't have a history of making money, because that's the way that loans. What happens? Let me ask you a question. When you get a loan, what are you guaranteed to have to do? Pay it back. You're guaranteed to have an expense, right? When you have just started a business, what are you not guaranteed? Money coming in, right? So that's the piece that doesn't always match up with, so that's why I say sometimes you have to be more creative with getting funding for a brand new business. Sometimes it's those grants or gifts, the LASA grant program we've talked about, LASA, Local Agriculture and Seafood Act grant program. We'll get this information to everyone too. Is one example of a grant program for new, small and beginning farms and food ventures. So that's a grant. The CSA model, or the shares, or something where people pay you up front as what they sometimes call it crowdfunding. If you've heard that phrase before, crowdfunding, that's a way of getting your customers to pay you up front, to get you the money that you need, to bridge that gap, right, instead of a loan. So most of the produce that you see in grocery stores like an Aldi, a Stop and Shop, a Walmart, is going through a lot of channels before it ever gets there, right? You are not selling directly to that grocery store, right? You're selling through a supply chain, right? So that's not usually the way that and there are lots of requirements along that supply chain. So they're not buying local produce. Some are, right? I would say like certain markets do. Aldi, Walmart doesn't. Those types of markets don't, right? So that's the thing to know. I think if you want to get your product into a bigger market than say a farmer's market, you want to get it into a store, then you're going to start working with folks like Farm Fresh Rhode Island, like Southside Community Land Trust, like Hope in Maine if you're making a value-added product, right? Those are going to help you sort of get into those channels. But if you're selling tomatoes, you're likely going to start selling them through directly to a restaurant, to a chef. You're directly going to sell them through a farmer's market. Not often going to be going straight to a grocery store, especially a big national chain grocery store, because it goes back to what we were talking about. The main thing that a Walmart or an Aldi are looking for are price competitiveness, right? That you compete on price and quantity from their and like predictability of quantity from their providers, right? So they're not going to buy. They don't spend time buying directly from local producers because of that.
Last part on this business model canvas, these two bottom ones are our cost structure and revenue streams. Cost structure. What are the different types of costs associated with your operation? So we've already covered some here, talking about leases, talking about loans, talking about anything that you do just buy up front, anything that you're spending your capital on.
Supplies. Equipment.
Your GAP certification. All of those are money that you're spending on your business.
They're often, if you're buying at certain quantities, it costs a certain amount, right? But if you get to a larger quantity, you can get price breaks, right? So that's a cost structure question too, is that at a small level, you're probably paying more for what you're getting as your inputs, right? And so some of the thing of thinking about business planning is, how do I get to a scale where I can buy enough that cost comes down, because that affects what I can sell it for on the other side, right? And the profit that I can make on the other side.
Or another example could be how you're talking about neighborhoods and having multiple people in a neighborhood growing things, sharing tools instead of everyone buying separate ones. That's a place where working with your key partners, you can cut down on your costs. And this also includes labor. So if you're paying anyone to work for you, that's also a cost as well. And then your revenue stream. So how are you making money? How often? How are you doing a CSA where you're getting money up front? Or are you just selling as you're able to? Are you going to every single market or every other market? Are you trying to just get as much of your product sold at the lowest price so everyone has it? Or is it a luxury item? Is it something that you're not going to sell as much of, but you're going to sell it at a higher price so you make more each time you do make a sale?
One of the important things to think about with your revenue streams and your cost structures, first it's listing what they are, right? What are the different ways that you're going to make money? What are the different ways you're going to have to spend money? But then it's also thinking about that question, how often, right? The frequency. How often is money coming in? How often is it going out? How fast is it coming in? How fast is it going out? Right? Because if those things don't match up in your favor, you can lose money very quickly, right? So that's some of the thinking of this part of it as well, is not just what it is, but how frequently and how fast. So talking about what examples of revenue streams are and examples of costs are, right? So we already talked about some of the examples of costs. Rosie went over some of them, your land, your labor, your capital. The question of whether you're going to rent, lease, or buy the land, right? That has a structure related to it, the cost structure related to it. This is another really important one. Is your cost one time or is it recurring? That's true also for revenue streams. Is it one time or is it recurring? And if those things don't match up, if I have recurring costs but one-time revenue, I have to keep going out and getting more revenue. It's one of the reasons why the CSA model or other types of subscription models, when I sell, I say, you could buy now, but you could sign up for a subscription and I'll give you this on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. I'll give you a new box of what I offer, right? That sets you up for recurring revenue, for revenue that you keep making month after month. And it takes a lot of time and money to find a customer. It takes a lot of time and money and effort to find a customer. It takes less effort to sell to a satisfied customer again. So that's why you want to think about those recurring revenues, right? Reducing kind of recurring costs are what they are. You might have to pay them. We won't talk too much about there are cost of goods, the cost that your product actually, the supplies that you have to get to make your product, right, that go into it, versus the overhead expenses of running your business, right? That's cost structures. Again, examples of cost structures. Revenue streams, the most basic one is a fee for product, right? You pay me, I give you the product. Fee for service, I might add on services or offer services and find out that that's more valuable, right? We talked about community supported agriculture, shares. I just talked about subscriptions, right? Add-ons and bundles, we talked about that example of Pat's Pastured where they bundled together, partnered together and bundled together products because they knew they were going the same type of customer and they could each benefit from that. And other types of, we won't talk too much. Agritourism is if you own the land, if you are on the land and own it, you can use it for tourism-related activities, event-related activities. Side contracts, if you're growing, that question of if you're growing and you might have more one year, you might have less another year, you might enter into a contract with someone who says, if you have more, I'll buy what you can't sell. That's a side contract, right? Hope's Harvest at Farm Fresh Rhode Island enters into those kinds of contracts with growers. They say, we will buy what you can't sell at the market, right? If you grow more than you can sell at the market, we'll buy it. That's a side contract, right? Co-branded products, we talked, that's actually, the example from Pat's Pastured was both a bundle and a co-branded thing, right? They branded it together. Pat's Pastured, Walrus and Carpenter Oysters, all together. Yeah, key takeaways from the business model canvas. So you have choices in each of these areas of the business model, right? You can choose what customer group I'm going after, what customer segment I'm targeting, right? I can choose the channel that I'm trying to reach them, right? I choose the way that I pitch myself, the value proposition. I choose the type of language and the type of thing that I lean into, right? So choosing my customer, the discerning food lover, right? And reaching them through the right channel, the restaurant, the chef who wants the most and the best, and with the value proposition that it's the best quality, those are each choices to make about your business, right? Just as much as trying to compete on price, and get into a big store is a different choice, right? Those are all choices, and you have choices to make in each area of your business model. And those choices have aspects on every other part of your business model, right? So you want to think about how it all works together. Sustained success means doing well in all the different areas. You have to do both. You have to have a customer who wants what you offer. You have to be able to consistently offer it at the level that they want it. And you have to be able to make money doing it, right? And have more money coming in than going out. That's the sustained success of running your business. And if you can show that in your business model canvas and your business plan, you can make a case for it, right? You can use it as a tool for a current business that you're running or for a new business opportunity. So these are the three big buckets that we used, right? Production, sales and marketing, financials, and the 9 different buckets within those. This is the question of, remember, the proof is in the pudding, right? It's how do you prove out that you have a viable business, right? It has to be desirable to a customer. What you do has to be something that customers want. It has to be feasible for you to do it and deliver it. And it has to make more money than it costs. If you can do all 3 of those things, you can create a viable business. If any one of those things isn't working, if you're doing something that you might like, but it's not desirable to a customer, or you're hitting the wrong customer, that's a shaky leg of that stool. If it's 3 legs on the stool, right? Desirability, if it's feasibility, right? If I can do something desirable for a customer, but I can't actually do it at the level that I don't have a business yet, right? And if I can't get the money in to cover the money out, then it's not viable, right? So I need to hit on all 3 of those for a viable business. Okay, we're going to take a break for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
All right. I know that was a very short break, but we want to make sure that we've got time to get through everything. So now we're going to move on to the 1-page business plan. This sheet, it says Plan to Succeed. And so we're going to go through the different sections of this. This is something that you can use to work through your ideas for your business. And so we're going to look at the mission, the objectives, and then your SMART goals. And so, yeah, got it. A couple different languages for everyone. Actually, will you go back to the mission? Yeah. So starting out, you've got your mission. What is the mission of your business? This is going to guide everything that you do, but you can keep it really simple. It doesn't have to cover every single thing you're going to do, but what is something that you want to stick to as you go through your business? Remember, at the beginning of this presentation, we told you about the mission of the organization that we work for. And so that's something that's always in the back of our mind when we're doing our jobs. So this is similar for your business. What are you sticking to? And then that ties into your objectives. So these are the directions that your business is going to take. These outline what you want your business to look like in the future and helps you stay focused on your mission as you're doing all of those things that we were just talking about with your operations, your marketing, and your financials. So that takes us back to focus. The financial, operations, customer, and us, or team. And so the way that we suggest using this is to have one objective for each of these areas. So first objective, what is your financial objective for your business? Is it how much money you want to make? What are you aiming for in your business financially? And then operations. Objective 2, what are you aiming to do? What are you aiming for your business to do? Are you going to be growing vegetables? Are you going to be processing vegetables? And then customer, objective 3. Who are you doing these things for? Who are you selling to? Who is going to be keeping your business in business? And then objective 4, us. Who are you going to work with? Who are your key partners? Who is the team? Who is your community that's going to help you in your business operations, in your business finances, in communicating with customers?
So, give some examples of what that can mean. A financial objective. My objective is to build a profitable business. Right? That's the overarching objective. I want to build a profitable business. So that is at the level of an objective. It's not a goal yet. I haven't gotten specific about it yet. It's just at a high level, I want to build a profitable business. Operations. I want to build a profitable business with a smooth operational plan for that business, right? And I want to grow my customer base, right? My objective is to grow my customer base over the next year, right? And I want to grow my team to be able to do all that I want. And then we're going to talk about SMART goals, right? So SMART is another acronym in English, SMART goals. So S, specific, M, measurable, A, attainable, R, rewarding, and T, timed or time-bound, right? So I'm going to take an objective and I'm going to say, my goal is to start a profitable business, right? That's my financial goal. That's my financial objective. My SMART goals are what? They have to be specific, they have to be measurable, they have to be attainable, rewarding, and time-bound. So in the next year, that's time-bound, right? In the next year, I have a goal to make 10% profit. That works, right? 10% profit. I have a goal to make $10,000, $50,000, right? In the next year, in the next 12 months, I have a specific goal. It's a measurable goal. It's got a number around it, right? It's attainable. I want to think about something that pushes me, but it's not, I want to make $1 million in the next 2 months, right? Like that's not a SMART goal. It might be a SMART goal if you have the ability to do that, right? But you want to do something that pushes you, but it's attainable, right? It's rewarding. It's going to get to a place, what do I need to do in this business? How much do I need to make, right? So that's how you start turning an objective, I want to build a profitable business, into some SMART goals, right? I'm going to say, my SMART goal is I want to make, over the next 12 months, I want to make $10,000 in sales, $50,000 in sales, right? And then I'm going to say, okay, how am I going to do that? What's my action plan? What are my steps? 1, 2, 3. And the thing about this is a one-page business plan is that you get to look back at it. You can check back and see month after month, at the end of the year, where am I where I thought I was going to be, right? Same thing for each of them. That's a financial one. An operational one might be, I want to grow this much, right? This many pounds of this crop that I'm growing, right? Over the next year, over the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. I want to grow this much, right? That's your operational goal. I want to process this much, right, into this end product, right? I want to go to this many, on the customer side, the focus, the C, right? The customer side. I want to do I want to reach this many new farmers markets, right? In the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, I want to reach this many new farmers markets and this many new customers, right? Measurable, there's a number around it. Timely, there's a time boundness around it, right? Attainable, it's going to push me to do more, right? But it's also realistic, right? And sometimes what the R is in this one is realistic versus rewarding. So,
I think just one thing to highlight too, when you're talking about your action plan, you have to think about who is going to do each of these things, how it's going to be done, where it's going to be done, when it's going to be done, getting really into answering all of those pieces of what it's going to take to achieve that goal.
that's how it turns from a goal into a plan, right? As you start getting specific about all those questions, right? So we're circling back to the end, these 2 tools that we gave you.
Sometimes it takes writing it down a couple of times to really figure out what works and what doesn't work. Because you could write a goal that sounds great, and then you get into the plan for it, and you're like, I might need to change that a little bit. And that way you're setting yourself up for success.
The other thing about writing it down is you can have an accountability partner. You can talk to someone who you trust and say, hey, here's my 1-page plan. Can you look at this with me? I want to tell you about what I'm thinking about doing. And then they can ask you questions, right? And then you can check in with them. Hey, could we check in? Maybe you're an accountability partner with one another, right? You're doing this business, I'm doing this business. We're going to check in and see how we're doing. If I don't write it down, I could be doing however, and I'm not, am I good, am I bad? I don't know.
And that gets kind of back to when you're doing your business planning, we talked about doing your homework and knowing your stuff. And we started off talking about what you need to know in order to start your business, to keep your business going. But this is also you knowing about your business, doing your homework on your own business. So that way you can pitch it to people, you can talk about it, you can know what needs to change, what's doing really well. But the homework is also for yourself and for your own business. And then ultimately, we've given you a lot of tools. These are as good as they are useful to you. If you, I don't know, maybe you're like, I have to have 5 objectives, then okay, like try it with 5 objectives, right? Adapt it to what you need. And just the last thing on the jargon. I know that there's been a lot of jargon that's come up tonight. Always ask questions. You can always find things on YouTube, Google it. If you don't understand it the first time, no one understood it the first time. And so, yeah, ask lots of questions. It's okay if you don't always remember everything that we've also shared with you tonight too.
So we talked about the different types of objectives, financial, operational. So let's talk about operational. So operational, I could say, part of my action plan is to find land, right? That might be one of the first things that I need to do. Where am I going to find it? Through Southside, maybe? Southside Community Land Trust? That's one of my goals, right? Is to find land that I can farm on, right? One of my goals is to decide what I'm going to grow and then go figure out where can I get the inputs that I need for that, the seeds, the soil amendments, the whatever, right? That might be how I make my action plan for my operational side of what I'm doing, right? The financial side might be what money do I need to get started, to list out. So my plan is I have to learn what are the costs going to be, and I have to list my costs, and then I have to list where can I get the money to do that. So that might be part of my plan, is the action step is to research all of my costs, find out what all my costs are, and think about where I can get the money to do that. That could be a financial smart goal and plan, right? A customer goal could be who are going to be the first customers? Where am I going to sell it? So The goal is to find a market, a first market where I could sell it, right? Maybe it's selling it to Southside or selling it to whomever. Thank you all. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.